Good morning, students. Here is a review of the biweekly report format. This Friday, your first biweekly report will be due, and I'm going to walk you through the different steps on how to produce your biweekly reports. So here we go. Okay, so in the directions, you will see links to important documents. This SMG biweekly report link will open up this document right here, which gives you the different parts. There's 3 parts, part 1, part 2, and 3. So make sure that you go over these directions. I'll be walking you through that shortly. The second of these important links is an example of what it should look like when you're finished with it. So this is the student example. Okay, so we'll talk about each of these things. In order for you to create this document in part 1, it's going to ask you to find a screenshot of the last 1-month period for the Dow Jones Industrial Average so that you can take a look at the last 2-week period on what the market is doing. So let me walk you through how to change the time frame of that particular graph so that it matches what you need and where to find it. So here's where to go. Open up a new tab and enter these 4 letters, DJIA, which stands for Dow Jones Industrial Average. Then you're going to go to the bottom of this graph because this is not detailed enough. You want to use this link right here called Google Finance. Once that loads, you will see a variety of little icons down here. All of these icons match different news events that have happened over the course of the time frame of this particular graph. Now this graph needs to be changed. We're going to go click on the 1-month look, and you can see how the formatting has changed. And down here, I want the slider to shrink a little bit so that it's only going to cover a 2-week period. That's about right. So if my graph wanted to cover from September 30th to September 15th, what is that, 15 days or so? That's about right. So now I've got all of these different news events that are tracing and linked to these changes in the Dow. And remember, this is just an average over here on this scale of what the top 30 companies on the market are doing. So this is not a direct indicator of the price. So the first step to completing part 1 is almost done. Once you take this particular graph and change the date settings, you're ready to make a screenshot of it. So on my Mac, it's Command Shift and the number 4 to cut out this screenshot and drag and drop it. So once you have that screenshot, you're going to switch to the blank document and insert that image into your part 1. So here's how you insert an image into your blank document for that screenshot for part 1. Click on Insert an Image, and then find your recent screenshot. Mine's on the desktop, as you see here. Click Open, and it will upload that image. So here you go. Don't forget to also label it like this, part 1, so that you can keep things straight. Below the graph, this is where you will answer the new question. And so as you walk through this, this is the question for the second part of part 1. You analyze the news links on the chart from the past 2-week period and read some of the news explanations. How do you account for the changes in the market over the past 2-week period? In other words, how was the stock market affected, and what business or headline news caused the fluctuations in the market. So what you'll do is go back to your Dow Jones Industrial Average chart and take a look at some of the changes. So if you want to find out why things peaked out in that particular date, if you click on the link for letter A, it corresponds to this news link. And it says how October could signal a stock market collapse. Oh, so you want to take a look at this particular article and click on the link for it and decide for yourself whether you believe this particular news article or not. So go through the links on that particular chart and see what you think. Develop a strategy for answering your question based on what you see here. By clicking on each of these, it's going to have a link to the corresponding article on the side. So part Z indicates why the market had a big adjustment right over here between September 21st and September 22nd when it opened much higher. So there's got to be a reason for that. So next, you formulate your answer and provide some evidence of why you believe what you think for that 2-week period, analyzing what changes took place in the market. And for this particular student example, she gives the particular evidence here. You can see where she says, one author said, stocks turned solidly higher this morning following remarks from Fed Reserve Chairman Janet Yellen, who opinioned that the central bank's extraordinary commitment to propping up the economy will be needed for quite some time. So this is quite an old example, but it kind of gives you an idea of how things should be formatted. Don't forget that it's MLA formatted citations, so you're going to have to put the author's last name within the text, and I will be looking and checking for that. So make sure anytime you use a quote or evidence from an article, give credit where credit's due. And at the end of all this, you will provide a works cited bibliography, just like this one. You can see that same author is listed here, Gaston. Okay, so make sure you don't forget to do that. Okay, let's move on to part 2. This is called the recent transaction history section. So what you'll do is find a portfolio transaction log in your MarketWatch.com account and insert it, and then you will answer the question here. Account for why did you make these transactions during that 2-week period, and explain your reasons for choosing that investment action. For each of these items in your account, you have to have a statement about why you chose that particular stock. So your initial report might be pretty lengthy in this particular section because you just made your initial buy orders for week 1, and now you're reflecting back after the first 2 weeks on whether that was a good choice or not. So bear with the process. The first report you make could be a little bit on the longer side, but after that, if you decide to keep those stocks, it's not so bad. So here's where I'm going to find the portfolio transaction log history. If I go to my games account, I'm going to click on the portfolio section and make sure that I'm not on the holdings screen like this one. I want to be on the transaction screen as indicated by that particular heading. So when I scroll down, it'll have a list of the items that I've purchased, and I'm going to have to analyze each one of these in my account and describe why I bought them and whether or not I want to keep or sell the stock this particular 2-week period. So next, in order to get a screenshot of this, I'm going to cut out this segment and then switch back to my example and find that screenshot. and it will upload that screenshot, as you can see here. Once I have that done, I can plug in my analysis under question number 2, and it will end up looking similar to this one. You can either write it in paragraph format, or if you want to make a list of each of the transactions in your account, and maybe do it in list view with an explanation for why you chose that particular stock, that's fine too. So it may end up looking like this. I might have an explanation of why I chose to short sell WFC, and then I could skip down to the next one and look at G Pro. That's GoPro. I could skip down and look at TGT and just make a list for each one. And yeah, the first time you do this, if I don't make any changes, it's going to be a lengthy process. So this could take up a page of information. So make sure that you guys are detailed enough in answering the question, which was right here in the example. Why did you make these transactions, and explain your reasons for choosing that investment action? It would also make sense to take a look at your records and see whether you want to keep those stocks in your account or sell them. So make that call each time. Lastly, in this section, in your analysis, don't forget to provide evidence. As you can see here with this particular quote on the Lululemon transaction from this student example, she got this particular Market Watch article and has given credit where credit's due, and then down in her Works Cited page, she's going to have that in her Works Cited. So don't forget to give credit where credit's due for each section, and you are required to have evidence, at least one, maybe 2 pieces of evidence per section of each report that you create. Okay, so let's move on to part 3. In part 3, you are looking at the biggest gainer and biggest loser for that 2-week period. So what you're going to do is locate the holdings in your account. Under your portfolio, there's this tab called Holdings, and you'll see this particular list. You want to make sure that you grab the list view instead of the bubble view, so that way it's easy to read the gain-loss column. So make sure that you find the Holdings screen, and in your account, know the difference between the bubble view and the list view. You want to take a screenshot from where it has your name all the way down to the corner, and then insert that into your document for part 3. Now you're ready to start analyzing your holdings list view. So this last part is fairly simple. All you need to do to analyze this chart is find your biggest gainer. In this case, I have Caterpillar at 1,028. I list that as my biggest gainer. And I have Target at -72. It's in red, it's easy to find. And then I need to give reasons for why that's the case. Go and find some news evidence for each of those items, and make sure that you give credit where credit's due in your Works Cited page. So your finished product for part 3 should look similar to this. In order for you to make your Works Cited page and end up with something similar to this one, please make sure to use the tool called EasyBib. Add that if it's not already in your account, and then you can do something like this. So I found this article called "The Dow Rises More Than 100 Points Following the Clinton-Trump Debate." I click on the website button, I hit search and select this item here, and it will pop this bibliography item into a Works Cited at the bottom of my page, just like this. So use that. And that covers it. Sorry for the lengthy description, but those are the 3 different parts of your biweekly stock market report. Good luck. Don't forget to